Hello, and welcome to another vlog. This is a very exciting week because this coming Sunday is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. It's not only a time to celebrate the accomplishments of people with disabilities, but also a day to continue the fight for the rights of persons with disabilities. So I hope that you all join me on Sunday to mark this important occasion. This week's theme is fundraising. I'm going to release a video on Thursday where I talk about fundraising, the process of fundraising, and why fundraising is important. So subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see that video. But today there's a number of other things I'd like to talk about. First, I'd like to talk about my personal experience with fundraising. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the process of fundraising, and I want to talk about Patreon. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Anyone who's watched this vlog in the past will know that I'm very heavily involved with an organization called Muscular Dystrophy Canada. It's an organization that I'm very passionate about volunteering with. And as part of that, I've been involved in many of their fundraisers. For the many years, my family and I hosted the annual walk and bed race for muscular dystrophy in my hometown of Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. Now, I'm sure a walk is pretty self-explanatory, but you might be wondering what a bed race is. Essentially, participants would put wheels on a bed and race it around the block. It was a team event. Each team was 5 members, 1 person to steer and 4 people to push. The beds were powered entirely by human beings. They weren't allowed to have motors or anything else that would give participants an unfair advantage. Teams would decorate their beds in a number of crazy ways. There was one year where one of the beds was decorated with a Hawaiian theme, and another year it was decorated like the Flintstones. At the end of the event, the end of the day, we'd give out prizes, obviously to the winning team, but also to the team with the best decorated bed and to the top fundraiser. So as you can imagine, it was a lot of fun. Now, unfortunately, 2014 was our last year. After that, we just couldn't keep the event going because we couldn't get enough support, which is an issue that a lot of small organizations face when it comes to fundraising. Now, every year since then, we've participated in the Halifax Walk for Muscular Dystrophy, and I always raise money for that. I also attend a number of other fundraisers throughout the year, such as auctions and lip sync battles, and I sell raffle tickets and Christmas ornaments each year as well. And that's just the stuff that I do for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. I've also done some fundraising for my personal life, specifically to raise money for wheelchair accessible vehicles. About 10 years ago, my family and I were fortunate enough to have received a $10,000 grant from the President's Choice Children's Charity to help cover the cost of a new accessible vehicle. Unfortunately, it didn't quite cover the entire cost, so we still had to turn to the community to raise the rest of the money. We ended up hosting a variety show at the local fire department. And then about 2 years ago, I started a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for another accessible vehicle because my existing van was nearing the end of its life, and that money was ultimately put towards purchasing my current van. So as you can see, I've been heavily involved in fundraising over the years, which brings me to the next thing I'd like to talk about, which is the process of fundraising. So the process of fundraising can be divided into 8 main steps, which I'm going to go over briefly. So step 1 is to pick a cause. Although there are some fundraisers that will raise money and then choose a cause later, most fundraising events already have a cause in mind before they raise money, because it's a lot easier to raise money when you know what you're collecting money for than it is to just randomly raise money for an unknown cause. People are more likely to support you if they actually know where the money's going to go. So the first thing is you need to pick a cause. Is it going to go to a charity? Are you going to give it to a family in need? Or is there some other cause that you want to raise money for? Once you've selected your cause, you move on to step 2, which is setting your fundraising goal and any other objectives you might have. So you need to decide how much money you're going to raise, or you want to raise. And it needs to be a SMART goal. By that I mean specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Right, so how much money within reason do you think that you could raise at this event? And that's going to be your fundraising goal. And you also want to set what any other objectives you might have are. So maybe your main objective is to raise money, but maybe you also have another objective, like to create awareness or to recruit volunteers. So really you need to decide what the purpose of your fundraiser is. Is it just a fundraiser, or is there another motive as well? Once you've completed step 2, you can move to step 3, which is gather support. You actually need to get people to help you organize and run your fundraiser if it's going to be a success. So you can reach out to friends, family, coworkers, and your community to get people to support you. Once you've got support, you can move to step 4, which is to actually start planning the event. You want to make a plan, which outlines all the specifics of the event, including the budget. Yes, the purpose of a fundraiser is to raise money, but as they say, it costs money to make money, so you're going to have a budget to basically outline what the costs of actually running this fundraiser are. It should be typed. There's a lot of templates online for plans and proposals for events like these that can help you get started. Then step 5 is to actually organize the event or campaign. So you have to get everything in place. You have to book the venue, purchase the supplies, hire a caterer if you need them, book the entertainment if you need that. Basically anything that needs to be done to actually organize the event and make the event happen needs to be arranged at this stage. And then that leads you to step 6, which is to advertise the event or campaign. In order to get people to actually come to your fundraising event or campaign and participate in it, they need to know about it. So it's important to get the word out. And there's a number of different ways that you can do that, many different mediums you can use depending on who your target demographic is. You can advertise using social media or Google AdWords. You can use traditional mediums such as posters and flyers. You can do ads on television or radio. You can tell people about it in person. Really, it all depends on what your goals for the fundraiser are and what your budget is, which will determine what advertising channels you're going to use. Step 7 is to actually hold the event or launch the campaign. If you've planned and organized things thoroughly enough, then hopefully it'll go off without a hitch. But just in case, it's important to have a plan B, which you'd arrange in step 4, which is to actually plan the event. So now step 7's over. You've hosted the event. It was a success. You've raised a lot of money, and you've distributed the money that you raised to the appropriate recipient. But there is still one more step, and that's step 8, which is to thank your supporters. Fundraisers only happen when there's a lot of people donating their time and energy to make it happen. And most of these people who are helping with the fundraiser are doing it for free. So you need to thank them. If it wasn't for them, your fundraiser wouldn't have been a success, and they need to know that. Posting on social media is fine, but if you could actually send them a thank you card or something like that, that's even better. And if you want to include a small gift as a token of thanks, that's great too. The goal here is to let them know that you appreciate what they did for you and that you understand that they invested their time and energy into this, not expecting anything in return. Because if you don't do that, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding volunteers for your next fundraiser. So it's important that you always thank your supporters. So that's just a brief overview of the process of fundraising. So to recap, step 1 is pick a cause, step 2 is set a fundraising goal, step 3 is to gather support, step 4 is to plan the event or campaign, step 5 is to organize the event or campaign, step 6 is to advertise, step 7 is to host the event, and then step 8 is to thank your supporters. This brings me into the last thing I want to talk about today, which is Patreon. As I've said before, I started this YouTube series to educate people about disabilities because that's something that I'm very passionate about, and I think that education is the first step towards advocacy. My goal with this series is to change people's perception of disabilities, but that requires an income, and that's why I'm again asking you to support me on Patreon. The money that I earn on Patreon is going to be put directly towards growing my YouTube channel so I can get the message out to even more people and continue to change people's perception about disabilities. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that money will be used more specifically. If I earn $500 a month, I will produce a third video each month, or each week rather. Preferably in the form of a live stream where I can answer your questions in real time. If I reach $1,000 a month, I will do another mini-series similar to the accessibility mini-series I did back in May, where I talked about accessibility and the different types of accessibility and why they were important. And if I reach $1,500 a month, I will do an on-the-road series where I actually travel around Nova Scotia and other parts of the country and film on location to give people a better idea of what some of the accessibility challenges people with disabilities face on a regular basis. And in return for supporting me, you will get some awesome rewards. If all you can afford is to pledge $1 a month, that's perfectly fine. Every dollar counts. And like I said, in return you'll get some pretty awesome rewards. If you pledge $1 a month, you will gain access to our Patreon-only activity feed. $3 a month, you'll be able to suggest topics for future videos. $5 per month, you'll get access to exclusive content like bloopers and behind-the-scenes photos. $7 a month, you'll actually see your name in the description of one of our videos to thank you for your support. $10 a month, you'll see your name in an actual video, and you'll get early access to Thursday's video. $15 a month will get you mentioned in a video and will also give you access to special edition vlogs. And then if you're willing to pledge $50 a month, you will not only have a video dedicated to you, but you'll gain access to a monthly Google Hangouts Q&A with me, where you can actually talk to me in person and ask me questions about the series. So as you can see, there's some pretty awesome rewards there. And if you can't support me on Patreon, that's fine. Continue to watch the videos that I produce. Subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, share the link so that anyone else who's interested in watching this series and supporting me on Patreon can do the same. It might not seem like it, but I really don't like asking for money, so this is something that's very difficult for me. But in order to keep this series going, it is necessary. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed today's video and all the things I talked about. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you on Thursday.